Have you ever noticed how silence can speak louder than words? There are moments in life when no explanation, no excuse, and no apology can reach the depth of the wound we caused. In those moments, silence takes on a voice of its own. It becomes heavier than 1,000 words and more honest than any justification. Think about it. How many times have you been hurt, and instead of longing for an elaborate excuse, all you wanted was acknowledgement, a presence, a look, a moment of silence that confessed more than words ever could? And how many times have you tried to explain yourself, only to realize that your words sounded empty, almost like noise that made things worse instead of better? Silence is not the absence of communication. Silence is communication in its rawest form. It is the unpolished truth. It is the weight of guilt, of regret, of emotions that cannot be dressed up in language. Sometimes the most powerful statement you can make is to stop speaking. Have you ever been in a situation where you hurt someone you loved? You tried to think of what to say, of how to explain, of how to soften the pain with phrases like, "I didn't mean to," or "I didn't know better." But in your heart, you knew none of those excuses would heal the wound. In those moments, silence can be the most respectful answer, because it says, "I know I hurt you, and I won't dishonor your pain by minimizing it." Silence can be frightening too. It forces us to confront what we've done without the shield of excuses. It forces us to stand in the discomfort of our mistakes. Yet isn't that exactly what true growth requires? To stop hiding behind explanations and let the reality of our actions speak for itself. On the other side, perhaps you have been the one waiting for someone to explain, waiting for a message that never came, waiting for words that might soothe the ache inside you. And instead of an apology, all you received was silence. It hurt. It felt like abandonment. But sometimes that silence was not indifference. Sometimes it was the truest confession. "I have no words that can undo this. My silence is my admission." Isn't it true that some of the loudest memories in your life are silent ones? The empty seat at the dinner table, the unanswered phone call, the message that was typed but never sent, the silence after an argument, when both people realize too much has been said already. Those moments remind us that silence has a language, and we are fluent in it, whether we admit it or not. And yet, silence is not always defeat. It can also be an act of strength, strength to refuse meaningless arguments, strength to accept that no words will be enough, strength to hold space for emotions that cannot be reduced to language. Silence can be dignity. Silence can be honesty. But here is the challenge. Silence demands interpretation, and interpretation depends on the heart of the one who listens. One person hears silence and feels abandoned. Another hears silence and feels respect. One feels ignored. Another feels understood. That is why silence is so powerful, because it forces us to ask not only what the other person meant, but what we ourselves are ready to hear. So let me ask you, what is the silence in your life saying right now? Is it a silence that hides, or a silence that confesses? Is it a silence that avoids responsibility, or one that humbly admits fault without words? Think of the relationships that matter to you most. Perhaps there is someone to whom you owe more than excuses. Perhaps there is someone whose pain cannot be softened by words anymore. Maybe all you can offer is your silence, but a silence that is alive, one that shows presence, not absence, sitting with someone without trying to fix them, holding space without trying to explain. That silence can heal more than 1,000 apologies ever could. And perhaps you are on the other side, carrying the weight of unspoken words. You wonder why they never reached out, why they never explained, why they never said sorry. Maybe, just maybe, their silence was not meant to wound you, but to confess something words could never carry. Silence will always carry mystery, but maybe that mystery is the point. Because silence forces us to listen differently, not with our ears, but with our hearts. Sometimes silence is heavier than a stone. Sometimes it is gentler than a whisper, but always it speaks. And the question is, are you listening? At the end of the day, silence will not erase what has been done. It will not rewrite the past. But it can open a space where healing begins, where humility is shown, where truth finally stands without disguise. So I leave you with this reflection. Sometimes silence is the loudest form of honesty. Sometimes silence is the most respectful answer. And sometimes silence is the only way to say, I understand the depth of what happened, and I will not insult it with excuses. If you have ever been there, you know the power of this truth. And if you are there now, maybe it's time to embrace silence, not as weakness, but as the language of what cannot be said.